Hello uglies, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jer and we are in episode 2 of the Boulet Brothers Dragula season 5. This episode is called Trash Can Kids. Now, as expected, JK did come back. Hold on, strike that, reverse it. This is the filth episode. There was so much disgusting crap. I had to skip through so much of it. The Boulets said, "We did not do enough filth last season." And they even cited that fans complained that there was not enough filth last season. I am one of those fans that doesn't mind when there's not filth. I don't like the filth aspect. I understand why it exists. I understand that it's a main Boulet brother Dragula tenant. I don't like it, but I get it. There was the garbage juice drinking, the maggot mouth moving thing, the actual filth runway, which really wasn't as filthy as it could have been. There was a lot going on. Part of me loved it. Part of me turned up. Part of me said yes. But then a big part of me was like, no. So as expected, JK did come back. So there is a rumor on Twitter, and I will read this out loud. And of course, this is just a rumor, so please take it as it is. Take it for a grain of salt, whatever you would like to take it as. JK came back to Dragula because there were supposed to be 12 queens this season. The Mimagina from Portland was the 12th queen, but when she was supposed to go to filming, she showed up drunk at the airport, covered in tapioca pudding, and got put on the no-fly list. First off, why was the bitch covered in tapioca pudding? 2, so drunk that you were put on the no-fly list is kind of punk rock, but also so embarrassing. Imagine, so there I am at the airport, tapioca pudding on my titties, when TSA said you're on the no-flight list, so I can't come do Boulet Brothers Dragula season 5. Sorry, besties. I can't even conceptualize how embarrassed I would be as a person if this is true, and maybe it's not. So potentially the Boulets knew they were going to save someone, and they just decided to let it be JK since they knew that they had a lot of really cool looks. That being said, the other contestants were kind of furious. And I get it. I think JK is performing a role. I think they're almost Willeming their way through the season. I think they know what they're able to do and what they're able to produce drama-wise, and so they're doing that. I also really feel like maybe the other people see them as strong competition. I think they see them as someone who's got potential and see the charisma there. Oftentimes what I find in the drag world is that when someone thinks you're good, they sort of tear you down because they don't want you to succeed. They want you to continue to self-doubt. That's just entertainment in general. And so people will be like, well, you're threatened by me. That's why you're being mean. And the other person will say, no, I'm not threatened by you. I don't even care about you. I think you're garbage and trash. But that's not true. It's because they secretly see what's underneath it all. That despite the makeup, the hair, whatever's going on aesthetically, they see a personality underneath all of that. And they see the potential of what that person could be as a fully grown entertainer. And there's nothing that drag queens hate more than losing gigs is someone being slightly more successful than they are. Everyone in entertainment is always trying to get a leg up on everyone else. And I feel like what they're seeing is the potential of what JK could be, and they don't like that. On top of the fact that JK is a little abrasive. And I think that those two things combined make them back off. So I hope that JK learns to kind of not always take the goat every time, or whatever that phrase is. I'm glad that JK's back, and I'm happy with the trajectory of this episode. So the theme was Garbage Pail Kids, and I sort of remember the idea of what these cards were because I had an uncle that collected them. So I remember seeing them, but I didn't really pay much attention to them. It was slightly past my age. For anyone who does not know about this reference, what Wikipedia says is that this was a series of sticker trading cards created by the Topps Company, originally made in 1985, so just a couple years before I was born, designed to parody Cabbage Patch Kids. And if you look at any of the Garbage Pail Kids photos, they look a lot like Cabbage Patch, to the point where you think that they might be. Each sticker featured a Garbage Pail Kid, and they had some comical abnormality, deformity, and or suffering a terrible, painful, fatal death with humorous wordplay such as Atom Bomb or Blasted Billy. So for anyone who knows Cabbage Patch Kids, they were very silly, they were very cute, marketed at young girls. Garbage Pail Kids were more meant for the kind of gross out boys of the 80s who wanted to make fun of probably their sisters and other girls at school who collected these things and have something adjacent to that. This is a very common trope from the 80s and the 90s. Unfortunately, because it was a little past my era, I didn't get the reference. And I do think that quite a few of the contestants did not understand the assignment either. Even the ones who were a little bit older, I was surprised that they didn't get it. This was almost to the level of the Cenobite challenge from season 2, where a lot of people just didn't get the prompt. And this has been a common thing in Dragula. Some people just don't get the references. And I appreciate that the Boulets don't always hold that against them in the way that RuPaul does, where it's like, what do you mean you don't know how many times Joan slapped those kids in the Mommy Dearest movie? You're fired and you're at a drag race. What do you mean you mispronounced a French person's name from the 60s, Aja? And so I appreciated that they were kind about that, but I do feel like the judging was suspicious yet again. I have not had a problem with the winners both episodes. I think Nihuru was the best one in the first episode. I genuinely think that Throb knocked it out this week, and if they didn't win, I was going to be upset. Genuinely very upset. For me, Blackberry should have been in the bottom yet again this week. I did not think that Fantasia's look met the assignment, and I thought that was kind of a bottom look as well. As interesting as Satana's look was, I did not think it was the prompt either, and I thought that should have also been in the bottom. Neo, Throb, and Orgotic were my top 3, and honestly I went back and forth on if I wanted Neo or if I wanted Throb to win, but I was really glad that Throb did. It's also important to mention the conversation that the Boulets brought up about Onyx not knowing who she is as a performer. And they cited the promo look being a showgirl, and then last week being this sort of Victorian thing with a prop, and then this week having sort of mismatched props and having a different silhouette. I don't think that each week you must have your character completely the same every single time. There have been plenty of people who have come through the show who have shown different sides of who they are. There have been plenty of contestants who gave different silhouettes, different vignettes of who they were. And I don't necessarily agree that Onyx doesn't know who she is. Were the props a little bit odd? Sure. That tumor thing from last week, that was very referential of Princess Poppy's season 15 talent show number. That was very referential. This week, with the skates being on the foot that was detached, and then the one foot being like a zombie foot, those are little tiny details that definitely should be brought up. But I wouldn't say that Onyx doesn't know who she is, because I think that it's clear she knows who she is. She's a sort of horror sideshow showgirl. That's kind of the vibe that I've always gotten from all the looks. I think the pieces are not always put together correctly. It's a complete thought, but it's not really saying that much. And I think that's what the critique really needed to be. So on that end, I didn't really agree with her going home. And I really thought that Blackberry should have been in the bottom again. And I don't know what it is that the Boulets are just living, breathing, gagging, dying over this. I thought Landon was a fantastic judge, and it was so nice to see him again. Matthew Lillard was a really fun judge. I thought he had a lot to say that didn't feel like a typical celebrity judge where they're like, I like what you're wearing and it made me scared. I feel like he had a lot of performance notes to give as to what the performers were actually doing, and that's important for Dragula. Not just to say, oh, I like what you did, good job, do it again. That's not helpful critiques. So overall, I felt like this was a strong episode, but also had some suspicion in it. And when we watch the floor show, we will evaluate a little bit more. I'll give a little more of my thoughts. I might even pause this week to kind of go a little more in depth into what I thought about these. But overall, I'm really glad that Throb won. I think that that was deserved. I really love when a drag king is not afraid to do a drag queen look. And I also love when a drag queen is not afraid to do a drag king look. Gender bending and doing different styles of art is such an important part of drag, and I love that Throb did that. It was confusing to me that the Boulets gave this critique to Onyx about not following a formula and not giving the same type of character when Throb gave us something very, very different. Throb's promo look was so different than that intro look with the mohawk, and then the American Dad hillbilly zombie guy, and then a ice cream girl. They're very different creatures, but that wasn't even a part of the critique. So overall, I didn't like the Onyx critique. I'm getting exhausted by the bullying of JK. I don't think that Cynthia was really in that porta potty the whole time. And I thought that was a funny, farcical thing, almost like how they announced that the floor show is happening before they've even started powdering their faces. This weird, farcical thing that Dragula likes to do where they want us to suspend belief that something is going on that clearly isn't actually happening. But I liked the punishment idea of what that was. I just didn't believe it. So without further ado, let's get into the floor show and let's evaluate these looks. Alright, so let's get into this gig. We have Blackberry coming out as something very cute, and the idea of this challenge is supposed to be sort of like whimsical and cute with something kind of gross happening in the background. And I do think that there is something very cute about this. There is something kind of Cabbage Patchy about it. However, I think what my biggest problems are all the details about it. This picnic table print with the polka dots, it just doesn't work as a complete concept to me. Plus, there's all these like random jewelry pieces that are attached to make these balls and boils, which I think work. But if you are covered in purple boils, what is this thing that you're eating? How does that have anything to do with the boils? Because it just seemed like she was choking there a second ago. And that doesn't really correspond. It would make more sense if this was like a plague kid. But if you're a plague kid, you wouldn't be wearing these colors with these patterns. It just overall didn't quite make sense as a complete narrative. This look was so absolutely disgusting. It was so gross, and I am really loving Orkgotik so much. This is somehow really kind of glamorous in a weird way. I think it's a silhouette. Now, this look by JK, I loved this. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't like how the arm is sort of like ruffled, but you can clearly tell what this is supposed to be. As a thought of a garbage pail kid, not so much. It's a little more of a garbage pail adult. It misses the mark slightly, but I do like this sort of a horny, obsessed person who's literally covered in, I don't even think I could say that on YouTube, covered in nut. I love the idea of this. However, what I don't like is when someone is told we're doing filth, that they go to sexuality. Dolly did it probably the best in season 4. I think it worked for the clown aesthetic. And I don't know if just like being covered in nut and having a big buff arm that's sort of wrinkly really makes up for what the prompt is. So I like it, but for a different prompt. So on that end, it kind of missed the mark for me. Now, let's talk about this look, because there's a lot going on. As far as the prompt, I mean, even the Boulets said that it was close to what they would have expected to see on a card. It's very whimsical. This does not, to me, read a bottom look. Is it confusing that the skate is on the amputated leg? Yes. That doesn't make sense. I don't get it. But is this bad? No. It very much comes across like something you would see. Now this is drag. The look, the silhouette, the concept, the story. One of my favorite things in any drag look is being able to look at something and knowing exactly what it is. And you can look at this and say, that is an ice cream girl. But there is something sinister about it. Why is there all this red right at the waist section? And then you look and you see that that's guts. And their performance is them scooping out their guts and putting it on the ice cream. This is incredible. It's got such a fun and strong point of view. This was absolutely a top look. And then the makeup is so cute. The performance is so cute because the idea of these are that they're supposed to be adorable. They're adorable and horrifying, and that's precisely what this is. But you somehow think, Oh my god. I love it. Now, okay. We have Anaphylactic doing something. I don't know what Anna was doing here. I am thoroughly confused by what this was supposed to be. It's kind of giving Ice Cream Girl, but everything sort of is off. So it's like giving like banana right now, right? And she's carrying a banana and there's extra props that she's holding on to with like sauces and stuff. So it's like she's supposed to be making an ice cream sundae or a banana split. There's no ice cream. So is it supposed to like go all over her body? I loved this, and I actually thought that was like her makeup or something she was doing. And then when I realized it was a prosthetic, I was kind of surprised. But like the Boulay said, I just don't understand where all the props went. Now again, with this look from Fantasia, it's not the prompt. Surgery is obviously something that has been done to death on every single drag reality competition show. There is always a surgery look. And I just think this has nothing to do with the prompt, and that's why it should have been in the bottom. But so many people missed the mark. How do you choose a bottom when so many people just didn't do it? And this was one of the most egregious to me because I'm like, this has nothing to do with cutesy horror. This is just like, oh, you got botched on your surgery. Sorry, gal. Is it cute? No, it's not really. I mean, the pigtails don't make it cute. And I think maybe she thought like, oh, I'll put pigtails on and it'll make up for it. But I don't think it really matched it. However, the makeup is perfectly spot on with the Cabbage Patch theme. Okay, so we have Cynthia doing a drug-addicted look. I will say, Cynthia's characterization is eerily accurate. I grew up in a small town of meth heads, of people that stood like that, smiled like that, had hair like that. It was, I think, a stellar performance. I think if I were giving an award out for acting, Cynthia would have gotten it. Cynthia's best supporting actress in a main film, where the Boulets are obviously the stars. Cynthia was the supporting actress. Conceptually, great for a different challenge. The silhouette is incredible. But yeah, I mean, this is another one of those that really missed the mark. And I understand what the Boulets were saying about wanting to be respectful and not being mean, because drug addiction is definitely something you don't want to joke around about too much, because there are a lot of people who really struggle with that. I didn't necessarily think it was offensive. I thought it was good political commentary. But I also just don't really understand what it had to do with the assignment. I liked this idea for Jarvis. Again, I think whenever people sort of go into, okay, filth, therefore I'm going to go into sexuality and go for pleasuring myself, that doesn't always, to me, translate out as filth. I think it's sort of an antiquated, puritanical idea of what filth is, which is ironic that Jarvis did a puritanical look last episode, and this episode for filth did a ghost pleasuring themselves for filth. Okay. This is stunning. This is stunning. There's something so elegant and royal and fantastic about it. This episode made me love Nia Hoodoo even more than it ever did before. And I think there is something kind of cute about it all. Even though it's this like pregnant spider woman, I think something is kind of adorable about it at the same time while being horrific. I do agree with the critiques. It didn't need all the extra spider webs. I think that was a detail that probably could have been done away with. But my God, this was an incredible look. Neo is killing this competition, and if she's not top 4, I'm going to be really surprised. Okay, so we are going to pretend that this didn't happen. But first we're going to talk about it. I am a drag queen of very little means. When I did drag, I was going to the Goodwill, Claire's, and Ross, and I was going to the little prom dress section at the mall to find outfits. I understand that we all have our hills that we die on and hills that we're not going to die on, and we are going to not spend money on the things we're not going to spend money on. My thought is, if you are going to go through all the work to do this red devil thing, which has nothing to do with the prompt, in my opinion, and create this sort of like devil look, why would you go to Boot Barn and get a little hoedown dress and then take some Party City Halloween gloves and put those on over this red devil thing? Again, it doesn't really make sense. And then this mess of tulle in the background. There's just nothing that meets the prompt about this to me. Plus, it's messy and it's not put together well. I don't get what it has to do with Garbage Pail Kids or with these trading cards. And again, it's another issue of just completely missing the mark. And I hope that they do this challenge again on a Titans, because this whole challenge was wrong. It was just wrong. Why is she eating fingers? I don't really know how much of this performance I can show on YouTube without getting demonetized, because a lot of this had to do with pleasuring, and there were a lot of things that were really shocking and gruesome, and I don't know if I can show those without getting in a lot of trouble. So I'm going to just stop it right here and not show the performances. Even though a lot of these were incredible, you should definitely go check it out. I think this is one of the best looks. This was the only really strong interpretation of what Garbage Pail Kids was. This was the only one, in my opinion. I think Blackberry got close upon second evaluation of it, but just overall the story and the performance didn't make sense with what visually was going on, and I didn't like the patterns of what was happening. Filth doesn't have to be ugly, and that's not a tenet of Dragula. I think everybody missed the mark, to be honest. Even Neo, who I loved, and Orgotic, who I loved, it wasn't totally what the assignment was. Like how this, it's so gross and vile, but yet the makeup, the styling, the colors, the lines, the precision of putting the gemstones where they are, it brings it to another level of cutesiness. And that's what a lot of people miss. So I'm glad that Throb won. This was absolutely deserved. This was a really great episode. I don't particularly agree with who went home, and I think I'm finding myself already missing Onyx without them even being gone that long. I think next week it's gonna be tough not having them here. But I think I like this cast a lot, and I think it's gonna hurt every single week. As like my wrap-up thing, speaking about Throb, the moment with JK sitting down and telling them, you don't have to always bite. When they fight, you don't always have to lash back out. I was so endeared to Throb in that moment. Them just sitting down together and talking and being real with each other, because even though it's a competition and they should be beating each other out, they don't need to beat each other up. And I liked that Throb took that second to be like, you have no friends in this room because you push them away and you snap. You don't have to do that. You hear them talking about you, just don't say anything. Let them talk and just be better than them. I thought that was great, and I'm now rooting for Throb to get into top 4 of this whole thing. So right now, I'm personally really rooting for Neo. I'm rooting for Throb. I still am really liking Jarvis, but I think Jarvis has maybe dropped down into top 5 for me, because I'm still very Team Anna, still very Team Fantasia, but I'm really liking Orgotic. And I think Orgotic might be pushing either Fantasia or Anna or Jarvis out of one of those spots, but I don't know where right now. I just know that I really like Throb, and I'm very here for Throb, and I hope they go far. I will have another review episode up on Friday. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know who your top 3 were, and who were your bottom 3. Did you agree? Did you think this judging was as suspicious as I did? And would you like to see this challenge redone in a Titans season? Because it could definitely be redone. See you next week. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to click that like button. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe. Goodbye.